This is Michael Popok, Legal AF, with some breaking news about the Trump Organization and Donald Trump. Have you heard the one about the Trump Organization being convicted of criminal contempt of court even before the criminal trial on tax fraud even began? You heard it here, everyone. Judge Merchan of the New York State Supreme Court has just unsealed, in the public interest, an order that he issued after a mini trial that nobody ever heard about. This is all breaking news, that there was a mini trial last November and December in his chambers, in his courtroom, a secret one, a sealed one, in which the prosecutors carried their burden of showing beyond a reasonable doubt that the Trump Organization committed willful criminal, not civil, criminal contempt of court by flouting the orders of the court, refusing to comply with them in 4 separate occasions. I have no doubt that Judge Merchan has decided today to release an unredacted version of that document, that 28-page order, in order to telegraph and communicate to judges around the country, including Chief Judge Beryl Howell in D.C., who's supervising all things Trump and all things document production related to the grand jury subpoenas, that this organization can't be trusted and that this organization has already been found in criminal contempt in a courtroom. That's got to be a wake-up call for Judge Howell, who took a lot of grief last week, and understandably so in criticism, in her own secret hearing, in which the Department of Justice on the federal side also sought a contempt finding by the judge because of the Trump Organization's same thing, refusal to name a records custodian and refusal to turn over documents and do a proper good faith due diligence search. And of course, if a target of a subpoena for a grand jury isn't going to do the right thing, the Department of Justice and the court have other major tools and weapons at their disposal, including executing another search warrant on other properties other than Mar-a-Lago, or maybe even Mar-a-Lago itself, if there are other secreted and secret areas within Mar-a-Lago that weren't properly searched the first time around. That's the fire that Trump is playing with. But this is a pattern, folks, that we've been talking about for a long, long time. Every time there is a records request, subpoena, or search warrant, Trump refuses to play properly in the sandbox and color within the lines, decides to hide, obfuscate, secrete, and then, of course, every organization has to have a records custodian who takes responsibility for the process. And in every case, including in the case we just learned about, the criminal contempt finding by a sitting judge in New York last year that just got revealed yesterday, even there's a fight over the Trump Organization's refusal and failure to designate an appropriate records custodian. In fact, the records custodian that they appointed in the Trump Organization criminal trial on tax fraud turned out to have committed perjury and misled and committed a fraud on the court in his own testimony. Because when asked under oath, we don't know who this is because his name or her name is still redacted, is still blacked out on the released trial order, but the recitation of the facts is all there. And there, the prosecutor said, when we asked we think it's a male, Mr. So-and-so, have you ever complied, responded to subpoenas on behalf of the Trump Organization before? He said, yes, dozens and dozens over the course of the years. Have you ever found has anyone ever found you, any court ever found you to have not been forthright, to have not conducted yourself appropriately in that subpoena response process? And he said, no, never. Well, it turns out that that person for Trump Organization and the Trump Organization have been chastised in other cases related to their foot dragging and utter failure to respond appropriately to court orders and court proceedings. And here, Judge Merchan had enough. The judge said, and after reciting all of the history over the course of several months, all the warnings he had given, all the admonitions he had given before reaching the boiling point and the last straw of finding criminal contempt, the judge says there comes a time when a court's authority has to be respected and has to be reinforced, and that time is now. And Judge Merchan, after a full trial in which the Trump Organization lawyers, I presume it was Susan Necklace, one of his lead lawyers in the case, And on the other side, you had Solomon Shinerock, one of the lead Trump prosecutors in the Manhattan DA's office, battling it out in the trial, putting on witnesses. This was a full-blown evidentiary hearing trial before the trial, in which the Trump organization already lost. Now, people might be wondering, why didn't we know about this before? Well, in the interest of justice and so that the defense would not be prejudiced by having the jury or a future jury, prospective jury, find out that they had already been found in criminal contempt even before the trial started, which is obviously prejudicial. It's a prejudice created by their own bad conduct, but prejudicial in the trial setting nonetheless. Merchan made, I think, the appropriate decision in exercising his discretion to keep that sealed until after the trial. But now that the trial is over, the convictions have happened, sentencing is going to happen in the next month or two. And more specifically, again, I believe that Judge Merchan reads the papers, watches the media, maybe even Legal AF and MeidasTouch, and knows, unless he's living under a rock, which he isn't, that Judge Beryl Howell is addressing very similar issues with very similar parties in her courtroom in the District of Columbia, and just conducted a mini hearing, secret as well, on whether the Trump should be found in contempt on very similar issues. I mean, it's eerily similar, except we're talking about Trump, so his conduct and behavior is always the same. His failure to appoint a records custodian, because, of course, nobody wants to, with a 10-foot pole, touch vouching for Donald Trump and his record keeping or lack thereof, or where he's hidden things, because he's not even forthright with his own lawyers, so they don't want to take responsibility as officers of the court. They've already seen what's happened to half a dozen lawyers who have now been disbarred or in the process of getting disbarred, including Rudy Giuliani, who's in the District of Columbia. So they're no fools. They don't want to get caught vouching for somebody that's not trustworthy. So it's the same issues. And I'm sure Merchan said, I think this is something the public, wink, wink, Judge Beryl Howell should know, that I have already found the Trump organization in criminal contempt, the highest level of contempt a judge can mete out as a punishment in my courtroom related to similar document issues, and Beryl Howell will do with it what she will. She now knows and can inquire about that because it's now history, judicial history, that's now in the public record about the Trump organization, and the Department of Justice now knows about it. I am sure the Department of Justice didn't know about the secret trial, the sealed secret trial a year ago, because if they did, they would be raising holy hell in front of Beryl Howell with, here we go again. Donald Trump and his organization not only paying fast and loose with the law, but completely flouting the authority and not respecting the court and its orders. We're getting here. I think that's going to shorten up the fuse considerably on Judge Beryl Howell. And one more wrong step in this minefield for Donald Trump, where he's surrounded by mines being planted by Jack Smith and the Department of Justice, and he's going to be in serious jeopardy, and criminal jeopardy at that. So we have an amazing development that I've now reported on, which is the revelation of the criminal contempt finding by a judge against the Trump organization over a year ago, even before the criminal trial on tax fraud began against the Trump organization. Kudos to the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. My co-anchor, Karen Friedman-Agnifalo's former shop, did a great job. Kudos to Solomon Shinglass, the prosecutor who argued successfully against the Trump organization. And now we're going to have to see how that has a domino effect, a ripple effect through the other proceedings with other prosecutors and other courtrooms and the Department of Justice, who now know about this result and can put Trump's feet further to the fire and raise it in their proceedings moving forward. This is Michael Popok, Legal AF, reporting on the Trump organization criminal contempt finding prior to the start of their trial that just got revealed by Judge Merchan, who sits in the New York State Supreme Court.
At MeidasTouch, we are unapologetically pro-democracy, and we demand justice and accountability. That's why we're spreading our message to Convict 45. That's right, gear up right now with your Convict 45 tees and pins at store.MeidasTouch.com. That's store.MeidasTouch.com.